Hey guys, coming at you today with a delicious, fluffy cake recipe that is super low carb and versatile, perfect for summertime, a keto chiffon cake. So, let's get started. Hey everyone, welcome back. If you're new here, thanks for joining me. My name's Alycia. I'm a pastry chef with a sweet tooth, and now I own a keto gluten-free bakery, Sugar Swap Bake Shop. And I'm here to teach you all the tips and tricks I've learned over the last 6 years in making and developing keto recipes so that you guys can have the confidence to make your own keto creations. So if you enjoy my videos, please hit the subscribe button down there, give the video a thumbs up, leave me comments, share with all your friends and family. They'll be very glad you did. It all helps me bring you new videos every Saturday. Today, a light and airy keto chiffon cake. This is a pretty basic cake recipe. It's not super sweet, and you can pair it with a lot of different things. You can cut it and layer it. You can just slice it and serve it with some fresh berries and whipped cream. You can cut it into cubes and make trifle dessert out of it. A lot of things you can do with it, and I really didn't change much of the recipe from a regular recipe. It's just our flour mix is a little bit different. So it's pretty simple, but just a couple tips and tricks for it to come out completely perfect. But even if it doesn't, it still tastes delicious because I made a bunch that weren't perfect and they were still yummy. So let's get onto this pretty simple recipe. So I already kind of have my mise en place ready to go for this recipe because the hardest part is you need room temperature eggs, but eggs are really difficult to separate when they're warm. So I actually separated them ahead of time and had them ready to go, and now they're out at room temperature. So I suggest doing the same. Get them out in the morning, separate them, let them sit out for like an hour, and then you can make your recipe. So I got 4 eggs here. I'm gonna put my yolks into one bowl. Whoa, don't fling it everywhere. I'm all covered in egg yolk. One of my egg yolks broke. Try not to break them, it's much easier if they're not broken. Or you can just separate them right into your bowl that you're using. And then your 4 egg whites. I'm using a stand mixer, but you don't have to. You can use a hand mixer for this. I just want to be hands-free, putting 4 egg whites into there. When you are separating, I would always separate it into a separate bowl and then put your egg whites one at a time into something else. In case one does break, you don't ruin all your egg whites. This isn't going to take long to put together, so preheat your oven to 325. Then along when you pull out your eggs and separate them, pull out 2 ounces of a low carb milk of choice, 1/4 cup, and I measured out my 4 ounces of a neutral oil. So really the only difference I had to make in this, I upped the fat a little bit in it, just because our flours tend to be a little bit more drying. So before I start mixing, I'm gonna get my dry ingredients, and I'm gonna get 1/8 of a teaspoon of cream of tartar into our egg whites. So I can get this out of the way. So we're using very little dry ingredients here. That's why it's so low carb. The entire batch, which is gonna make a 9-inch round springform pan, is only 7 grams of net carbs. Unfortunately, on my Recipal app, when you convert it into a nutrition label, for 8 slices, it still says it's like 1.5 carbs because it's less than 1 gram of fiber. So we just need 60 grams or 3/4 of a cup of an unflavored whey protein isolate. I try not to stray from IsoPure just because I know it works. I know it's more expensive, but I've been burned by other protein powders in the past. So once that started happening, I just started sticking with one brand that I knew worked. To that, we're adding 21 grams of coconut flour, which last time I weighed it out, it was 2 tablespoons and 2 teaspoons. It all depends on how you measure though. So that's why I just say to weigh it. It's so much easier. So I must have packed them down when I did it, when I got the 2 tablespoons and 2 teaspoons. And I think that's how they do it for the back of the package as well. Then the only other thing that's in our flour blend is a little bit of xanthan gum, just 1/4 teaspoon. And then a regular chiffon cake has some leavening in it too. So you're not just relying all on the egg whites for your lift. I did up it a tiny bit because a lot of times with keto baked goods, they need a little bit extra help to stay risen. 1 teaspoon of baking powder and 1/2 teaspoon of baking soda. So if you make any of my recipes, you know I always try to keep it the same, and you should have all this stuff on hand. So chiffon cake is basically a type of sponge cake, but it's has fat in it, instead of like a regular like jelly roll sponge cake doesn't have any fat in it. Since we're using oil, we do need 3/4 of a teaspoon of salt, which is not going to sift anyways, so whoop, and that's it. So we can get our egg whites whipping. You want these at stiff peaks. I'll show you what that looks like. And while that's going, once you got everything measured out, our oven's ready. The last thing is the sweetener. I'm using a granular monkfruit erythritol blend. I kept it a little bit lower than a regular chiffon cake because this is a 1-for-1 for sugar, and most people on keto don't want the full sugar of a cake. We're gonna put half of this in our egg yolks, and the other half we're just gonna sprinkle in once this is foamy, a little bit at a time as it gets up to stiff peaks. So we can put half of it in here, and then the last ingredient is just some vanilla extract. 2 teaspoons. You want to have your 9-inch springform pan ready to go. You don't want to grease any of it. The first time I didn't grease it at all, and it stuck everywhere, which was a pain, but it was also underbaked. So the second time I'm like, well, I'm going to bake it longer and just put parchment on the bottom. Well, because sponge needs something to grab onto so it doesn't deflate, the bottom of it, like after I took it out, I was all excited and it all was caved in on the bottom. So you can't grease your springform pan. It does help you get a nice, tall, not sunken chiffon cake. So I'm going to turn this on medium, whisk up this, pour in our dry, and then we just fold the stiff egg whites into our batter. I meant to whisk up the dry ingredients before I whisk that up, so do that so you don't have to dirty another whisk. You just want to get those pockets, if there's any pockets of xanthan gum, kind of worked out of there. We're a little foamy. I'm going to start sprinkling in the erythritol. Drizzle in. You want to make sure you don't have any egg yolks in your whites, so I shouldn't have used that spatula to get the egg yolks out. Give these a check real quick. So we're almost there. We're a little bit under. Not quite stiff yet. Give us enough time to whisk in our dry ingredients. You can see there was really well-defined ribbons in there. That's what you want. So now it is at stiff peaks, sticking straight out. You want to make sure you whisk it enough that it gets pretty smooth. Now I do 4 additions. So I cut it right in half, or in half again. Do that first quarter to lighten this up really well first. So this is the part you're kind of sacrificing these egg whites to lighten up your batter a little bit. Looks good. Now you can take about half of this, and a big wide spatula definitely helps with this instead of a smaller one. That's why I grabbed this guy. Gently fold, so in through the middle, down to the bottom, and around. Make sure you get all the way down to the bottom. Okay. The rest of the egg whites, nice and stiff, but not weepy. If you get them to the point where they're over whipped, they'll look piecey and be really hard to mix into your batter. They'll be almost dry looking. You don't want that. Okay, and the last bit of egg whites. You just mix until you don't see any streaks left. I think we're good. Now, pour it all right into your not greased cake pan, which always feels very strange to me to put anything in here not greased at all or parchmented or anything, but in it goes. So when you're all in there, you're pretty much even. You give one nice tap because you got a lot of big air pockets to get some of those bubbles broken. Maybe one more. into the oven. 20 minutes, do not even open the oven. Turn it, and another 15 to 20 minutes. Going into the oven. It's really important for the first 20 minutes that the cake has that time to rise and stick to the sides of the pan before opening the oven and letting any air out. All in all, super easy. That only took me 24 minutes, and that was with talking a bunch. It is actually a really simple recipe to put together. If I'm not talking, it's like literally 10 minutes. Just a few tips and tricks for it to come out perfect, hopefully every time. Okay, and it's been about 36 minutes. I'm gonna give a peek and see what it looks like. Ooh, it looks like it's done. Solid on top. So it's completely solid. Now, we wanna cool this upside down on a cooling rack. And this will prevent it from sinking too much. It's gotta cool completely upside down before we can unmold it. If it's completely cooled, it should pull away from the sides a little bit and be able to get a nice clean edge on your cake. Hopefully I won't be too impatient this time, because every other time I'm too impatient. But I only have a couple hours before I have to go get my son, so we'll see what happens. But I'll meet you back here when it's time to unmold this cake. Okay, we're back. It's been a couple of hours. I had it in front of the door that it's like only 50 or 60 out, so it's definitely cool around the edges. I just felt the middle and it's a little bit warm, but I have to leave in like a half an hour. So we're gonna unmold this cake. It did sink a little bit. When I turned it, I saw there was like a big air bubble. And I think that's what happens if you don't get all the big air bubbles out. You get one in there and then it ends up sinking. So I'm gonna take a knife and run it along the edge here. Try to be nice and smooth about it. The worst part is always by the clip. Okay, I'm hoping it's unstuck. Oh, and it looks good. So it's a little bit jagged, but not too bad. Now, the hard part is the bottom. Now, I was watching Claire Saffitz make a sponge cake, and she did all this, and she had it upside down, and she just peeled off the bottom, and it peeled off perfectly fine. But I couldn't get that to happen, so I don't know if she just has a different pan than me, or if it's only just regular sponge cakes, not chiffon, that does that. So I'm keeping it real flat to the base. It's going around slowly. We're trying to. I'm so impatient. This is like the worst kind of dessert for me. I'm impatient. Oh. Turned out pretty nice, except for that little divot in there. So you can definitely serve it whole with just a pile of fresh berries in the middle, dusted with a little bit of powdered sugar, which I might do that and take some pictures. But you can also just serve it with just the powdered sugar on it, and then serve it with some whipped cream and berries on the side, macerated or not, your choice. Now, truth time here. This was supposed to be shot a week ago. So I bought raspberries, strawberries, and blueberries to decorate, and the raspberries didn't make it. I took a bunch of strawberries upstairs. I didn't want them to go to waste, but it looks like the strawberries, some of them are okay. So I'm gonna decorate the middle of this and do a little dusting of powdered sweetener on top. I already took pictures of my chiffon cake that I messed up the side a little bit. Got a couple raspberries, that might be okay. That looks pretty nice. So if we wanted to cut it into 8, do here. Turned out pretty good. Now I was just snacking on this with all my tests just by itself. It's delicious. It's just super light and fluffy. So a little bit sweet. Definitely perfect dessert for 4th of July. A little bit of strawberries and fresh whipped cream. I'll link up there my stabilized whipped cream video. Super delicious. Light and airy cake. I didn't even mention in the beginning of this video, I already have a chiffon cake recipe on my channel, but it was when I was working at the bakery and I was doing things in bigger batches, and I literally did an 8 egg chiffon cake in sheet trays and layered them with the whipped cream and strawberries in between for 4th of July. I believe it was 2022. And I went off my Lancaster sour milk cake recipe, which is more coconut flour, and you ended up with a drier, denser cake. This one is super light and fluffy, so much better, and a more manageable size. But these are the kind of cakes that freeze really well, which is why I'm using this in an upcoming recipe, because it doesn't have a high fat content. So I'll put up the nutrition facts for 1/8 of it. Like I said, it technically looks like it's a carb and a half, because it says, or less than 1 gram of fiber in 1/8 of it. But if you just take the carbs of the entire cake, it's only 7 grams of net carbs. A super easy and versatile, light and airy vanilla cake recipe. A little bit sweet, a little bit vanilla. Pair well with a lot of my recipes. I have pudding recipes, I got mousse recipes, a lot of different options for this delicious light and airy cake. So good. I already ate almost the whole piece. So I hope you guys enjoy this recipe and give it a try for yourself. Let me know what you plan to serve this with. You can even cut this in half and make like a layered cake with it. So many options. What is your plan, and are you going to use it for the 4th of July this week? Let me know down in the comments below. Don't forget to check out my Amazon shop page. The link will be down in the description box below, along with the blog link to the full recipe. Give the video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. Subscribe if you haven't already. And as always, I'll be back with many more keto, low-carb, healthy meals, desserts, and snack recipes. Bye guys. Happy keto baking.